earlier. So. I'd like to call to order the Smyrna Planning Commission for March 2019. At this time, we'd ask everyone to stand for a prayer and pledge, please.
Bow with you, please. Father, we come to you today just with grateful hearts. Lord, we thank you for this community we live in. Lord, we also want to lift up the people who are in communities that have had damage to their homes in Alabama and places that have hit high flood zones and high water. Father, we just pray your guidance and your blessing on those people that are dealing with that. Go with us as we deliberate the town's business. Thank you for those that serve our town, the employees, our police and fire protectors, first responders, Lord. And we're just so grateful for everything that you give and do for us. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. No citizens' comments at this time?
That's correct.
Moving on to item number 4, approval of the minutes. Do we have any corrections or additions to the minutes as they were handed out? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5, old business, annexation, zoning, and planning, plan of service. Gwen Farms. Staff comments.
Yeah, this is it's an annexation request. It is also a rezoning request for a portion of the property. There's 2 separate tracts of land. And I apologize, the computer died as we were getting started, so I'm trying to get it rebooted. It has the maps and everything. This is a property and request that's been in front of you a few months now. It was requested to be deferred by the developer while they were finishing their work on their traffic study that we had asked for. But the total tracts combined are 190.5 acres. Surrounding zoning is a mix of R3 and R1 in town and RM in Rutherford County. Land use plan would support a low-density residential development in this area. The proposed PRD is for 135 townhouses and 405 single-family lots. So it's a total of 540 units. We had several comments. The number 4th one actually on your list was a really kind of an informational comment. The major thoroughfare plan shows a collector street connecting Rock Springs Road and Lee Road in this area. The eastern connection that they're proposing in this development to Rock Springs Road will meet that requirement, and they are showing that as a 60-foot right-of-way. So we'll be in compliance there.
Question. From that point on, we don't have any topo issues that we are aware of as far as continuing that street on over to Lee?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, good. Very good.
5 was kind of an informational comment for them as well. Sewer will have to come off-site from the Potts Crossing area, and a sewer upgrade may be required there. The next 3 comments regarding the site data table, proposed development phases, and the comment regarding parking spaces to remove them outside of the right-of-way. Those have all been addressed, so we can mark those off. Let me see if I can get the map back up. This one is obviously a fairly large development, 540 units. We did request and did receive a traffic study that had several items in it, and so they are proposing several traffic improvements as part of this development. It is sheet 7, C7, I believe. Confirm that. on the plans you have in front of you that shows those improvements. Essentially what they are is, originally they did not have their access lined up with Waldron Road. They have now shown that, and so one of their access points will be from Waldron Road, then the one will be that easternmost that is mentioned that's going to be will be a collector on our thoroughfare plan as well. The proposed improvements there would include signalizing the intersection there with Waldron, as well as left turn lanes on Rock Springs Road in both directions, as well as improvements to Waldron Road, including which would essentially extend the bridge and create a right turn, a dedicated right turn lane from Waldron Road onto Rock Springs Road. All those improvements would essentially be done in phase one. And then when they build that second roadway connection to Rock Springs Road, the eastern connection, you would be looking, what they would be doing would basically be adding a third lane to Rock Springs Road across there from the Waldron Road paper
So the
pass.
project will start at Waldron Road and come back this way rather than the other way.
Correct. Yeah, phase one would be at Waldron Road. Phase two would be that second entrance. They are, again, it's a mix of townhomes and single family. All their exterior materials and all are brick, stone, and are for concrete siding type uses or type materials. They detail the ranges on that. One of the concerns we had before was regarding parking, as well as the roadways within the townhome portion of the development. Those are all shown as 22-foot wide streets in the townhome area. Each unit would have a garage, but it would also have two spaces in front of it, as well as additional parking outside of those would be kind of scattered throughout that area. And it would be, their overall development would have some of those off-site, so to speak, off the lots, parking provided, in addition to what would be provided on the lot.
Each of the individual units, single-family units, have the two-car
Two-car
parking.
garage and two-car parking. Yes, sir.
Kevin, on the townhome product, I know before there was some concern about the size of that road. Is this the sort of alley mentality, so to speak?
Right. And
Did this correct that?
Yeah, there are no alleyways shown. These are all at minimum. Some of these are 24-foot pavement widths. The townhome and some of the other minor streets are 22-foot wide, which is a standard width in our residential area.
Does this also allow for the emergency equipment to
Yeah.
get in and out safely here and get to where
Yeah,
they
we
need?
had, I can't remember which page it is, we had an auto turn.
C6?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. So they did take an aerial truck and on the CAD drawing did show that, so.
So in especially in the townhome area, sidewalks on both sides of the road,
Yeah, they're showing sidewalks on all the streets, yeah, both sides.
and with enough distance for the cars to park and not be on
Yeah,
the
they
sidewalk.
they all have minimum 25-foot front setbacks, yeah.
Very good.
A lot of topo on this property, right? It's pretty hilly.
Yeah, there's a lot of significant topo. This entire tract of land has some
Yeah.
significant topo, so they're working around a lot of that. There's some floodplain, even though there's some pretty significant hills, there's some floodplain along the creek as well. So, I mean, it's got all of it, really.
I assume all the calculations for the properties that come up against this property can feel pretty certain that they're not going to get any kind of water flow onto their property.
We don't have the stormwater management, but they haven't done that to this point. But yes, they would have to meet all our stormwater requirements as far as drainage. They'll have to maintain on their site. They do show areas for detention. We don't have those calcs yet at this point, but they've got obviously significant open space they can work with to create those detention ponds, yeah.
How will Rock Springs Road going up toward Potts Crossing, in other words, the way we're looking at it, I guess, to the east, how will that connect into what's already there at Potts Crossing? Will it just flow evenly with the 3 lanes? Will it tie in that way?
It would not, they're not looking,
Because
it wouldn't
of the
be
bridge?
it wouldn't be improving it all the way back to Potts Crossing. They would, so they
Is
would
it just
have,
past Montgomery Way there that it would improve to?
I believe that's correct. I can't remember exactly where, but you have a fairly large track in between Woodmont and this track. And so all of that track would not be improved in front of it. I mean, it's approximately,
Rock Springs Road as to what this track fronts Rock Springs?
not the entirety, it would stop about 250 feet or so east of that second entrance.
Okay,
So it would not be all of the area that this property fronts. You would have, I don't know exactly, but you're probably, it's 600, 800 feet probably before you get to that other track, and then you get back down to Woodmont from that. So it would be several hundred feet where you would have an area that Rock Springs would be a 2-lane with these proposed improvements still.
minimum unit size for the single family and the townhomes, what are they proposing for minimum size?
The townhomes are, I think it's 1350 to 2250. The single family is, some of these are kind of age targeted, 50 and up, age targeted lots, and some of these are not, but and they kind of vary. But anyway, the 3 kind of single family types products that they're proposing, they would range anywhere from 1,600 to 2,500.
Amenities, does it have an amenities?
Yeah, they kind of show on that same sheet C3. There's a pool proposed, like a tennis or pickleball court, playground areas, some other things that they would have within the development.
As to when we would expect an amenity package to be completed, would we address that at site plan?
You could then, or you could do it here. I mean, phase 2 has the pool, so I would assume at least at the minimum of phase 2, the pool would be built.
That assume phase 2 is the second phase.
Assuming, well, yeah.
I mean, really, it might
I
not be.
understand that, yeah. That's true. That's my understanding, is because I think the phase 1, I think that gets them enough lots and a kind of 3 different product types in the phase 1. I think phase 2 then would create that second, because we talked to them roughly at about 100 lots, we would want to see that second entrance. And so I think that's kind of what they're basing on.
And I think for sure we would address that when we get our plat in, and because I do think it's important. This is a big project, and it could take a while on projects this size.
Sure.
But you should expect the people that move in early should expect the package that they are buying in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
And I would expect to address that when they come back, if we don't do it tonight.
You know, I think we have to be reminded, it may have come up with these lot widths, if there's 5-foot setbacks on the sides, we need to look at the same ideas we've been following before with that.
Yeah, and their product or the materials they're using, there is no vinyl, other than maybe in the soffit or whatever, so.
Talking about the HVAC
With the HVAC units, if you wanted to add that as a condition, yeah, that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Go ahead and do that.
There's only two, well, no, they have what, 3 adjacent property connections, and we feel like, well, maybe 4, and that's appropriate.
Yeah, they've got the property, the one to the south with the collector street, and then they got one to the east, one to the south, and one to the west on those future phases.
And we've addressed it with the adjacent property owners, and we feel like we're good there.
Right, and going east, I mean, looking at it on a flat sheet, going east with a connection would be a positive thing. The topography is so steep right there, it makes it pretty difficult. And I've talked about it in that, what they're proposing phase 2, but it's very steep in that area. So.
Other questions y'all have? Have a recommendation?
I think with the changes that have been made, I think we as a staff feel comfortable with the proposed road improvements and other changes internally. We feel comfortable with this development now. We really didn't in the beginning, but at the original submittal. And I will point out that myself and Mr. Hercules, as well as Mr. Rose and Public Works, did meet with our counterparts from Laverne, and they are, so we brought them up to speed, because the Waldron Road leg of that intersection is in Laverne, so we wanted to be a good neighbor and kind of bring them up to speed on what's being proposed, and so they are aware of it, and at least at a staff level, they were comfortable with what's being proposed.
And I think that that's all we can do. That's all we really have the authority
Right.
to do. And so we appreciate you taking that step and doing that. What's the wishes of the commission?
Well, a couple things that have come up tonight that have been improved, and I think it's what we'd asked them to do. One was the road expansion, the Rock Springs Road expansion. Highly necessary, whether this comes or not, we need it. The signalization there at Waldron Road and Rock Springs Road, whether this comes or not, we need it. So there's a lot of growth out there. You answered the question about stormwater. That'll be calculated, make sure we're not dumping water on anybody else. I asked the question about the townhomes and the density up there and having the free mobility with the 22-foot roads. That addressed that situation. I think the fire department had a little issue with that initially. So from what I'm gathering, everything's been handled in the way we asked for it to be handled. So with that, I'll make the recommendation to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other
Just
discussion?
to clarify, you do want to add the
With staff
HVAC.
comments.
Staff comments.
And with the HVAC units in the rear.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I like about this. There's no vinyl siding in here. These are all hardy board, brick, stone products, so it'll look good.
And the way they changed their connection on their second connection, lining up with Walton Road, I think that's gonna be a big deal. You know, folks going to school can go straight across,
Straight across.
not have to get on and off. So, anything else? Any other Comments or discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'll abstain.
Okay. Passes 4 with 1 abstention. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, new business. Annexation zoning, Sean Collins, Rocky Fork, Amable Road, staff comments.
Yes, this is an annexation request, 8916 Rocky Fork Amable Road. 49 acres of property, currently zoned RM in Rutherford County. Surrounding zoning is all RM as well. Land use plan would support a medium density residential here in this area. This parcel is not contiguous to the existing town limits. Staff would recommend annexation if you choose to annex this property and zone it R3, that you would also annex approximately 2,660 linear feet of the existing right-of-way of Rocky Fork Amable Road, which would basically go from where currently town limits are on Rocky Fork Amable Road north across the frontage of this property. So if you choose to annex the parcel. From a plan of services, this does lie within CUD's service area for water. Other than that, though, we would be providing all services if it is annexed. And I guess that's all that I have.
Okay, questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not involved in this, but because I do some work with Mr. Collins from time to time, I'm going to abstain from this vote.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve with staff comments.
Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 4 yes, 1 abstention. Moving on, under new business, under B, rezoning request, Lee Barrett, Cedar Grove Storage.
Yeah, this is a rezoning request for a tract of land about 2.97 acres. Currently does not have any road frontage other than a road that is under construction. It's called Medical Park, which would be connecting Cedar Grove Road and Rock Springs Road. It currently is zone C2. Surrounding zoning is a mix of C2 and R1. Land use plan would support commercial development in this area. The proposed PUD is for 99,450 square feet of climate controlled storage and 11,650 square feet of conventional self-storage. There's also proposed as part of the development that there would be one apartment as an accessory apartment for a manager who could live on site. So that's a part of this request as well. The access, as I said, would be from that road that's under construction, Medical Park. It would come through the narrow piece of the property would be their access, and then develop in a larger area there. The climate controlled storage is a 3-story building, and then the conventionals are all, as I said, kind of the conventional single-story non-climate controlled storage. All other than the roll-up doors, it would be an all-brick construction as far as the exterior.
The climate control is all brick 3-story.
Yes, sir. They are proposing adequate parking for this use. There would be security fencing as well, and that sort of thing. As you would actually the primary access would be, or at least any of the roll-up doors and all, are kind of on what would be the south side of the climate control building, and then internally to those other buildings as well. And we did have a application book that went along with that kind of details those, all those, as far as the heights of the building and the designs and everything, what's proposed for the site as well. We have had, I guess we did have, we haven't really on the previous request, we had a couple of calls too. We did have one or two calls on this with only one that I guess we had a concern from one neighbor regarding having a drive directly behind their building. It was their main concern as far as in this type of use directly behind their building. So I guess that's all that I got.
What's the proposed security fence?
It says it's like a metal, almost a wrought iron type look. Not necessarily wrought iron, but kind of a steel ornamental type fence.
Okay.
It's in the back of the book, last few pages.
Okay. Where have we done this before, especially the minis? Because I know that's always been an issue on the storage.
Yeah, by right, this use is only allowed in Smyrna, is only allowed in industrial districts. We have had a couple of storage done through PUD. The one that had the conventional storage is on Wolverine Trail behind Academy Sports. It's fairly recently completed construction. We also have another approved climate controlled only has been approved next to Home Depot. That is just climate controlled.
That one didn't have any of mini roll-up right outside.
Right.
Perfectly honest, that's the part that's causing me a little bit of heartburn is the minis, not necessarily the climate control.
I know the last one we approved on Rock Springs was all climate control,
Yes.
office story behind retail,
Yes,
and actually had a retail component to it.
yes.
And the other one backed up against, it was behind retail, backed up against it used to be Texas Eastern gas line, and then,
It was beside a gas line, it was behind several large, big box.
yeah, there was
Very
nothing real.
Challenging piece.
Yeah.
And a challenging.
And we actually had folks coming in looking at placing apartments there, as I recall, as an alternative.
That was the intent.
Yeah.
We have a staff recommendation on this one?
Well, I think doing mini storage here, regardless of how you zone it, I guess, will be a little bit out of character, I think. You know, you have a commercial and office all around it. You do have some residential behind it that may not be residential forever, but currently it's still residential. You know, I think the medical park property is we hope to see, obviously, primarily offices, medical offices, and that sort of thing in that area. So I think the mini storage, the conventional storage will be somewhat out of character. You know, a 3-story climate controls can be a little out of character too, I guess, but it's in a way because it's the height of the building is taller than most, other than the hospital, is taller than anything else out there right now. But it would be more in line with what's been approved in the past in a more commercial area, as we've done it on the next to Home Depot over there. So it would be, that would be a more consistent with how we've looked at these in the past, at least, would be the climate control, but not the minis necessarily, the conventional storage.
Kevin, refresh my memory on Medical Park. Do we have anything currently approved as far as additional medical office that's?
There's nothing approved there at this time. We do have, in that development, we don't. There is one that's, if they're under construction, they're about to be.
On Rock Springs?
On Rock Springs.
That's a medical office, right?
That's a medical office. It's in that general area, but not necessarily that specific development.
Other questions or comments?
Chairman, I kind of agree with you, especially about the minis. And I'm just not sure this is the right location for storage over there by the hospital area. Just not sure it's a good fit. There's a reason these are primarily put in industrial zones. And I got the same little heartburn.
And especially on the minis. The larger climate control, I think over a period of time, that still fits in more with the area.
It's all indoor.
The other part is, I can see a lot of requests coming our way under PUDs for minis almost anywhere, which we have resisted in the past and trying to be somewhat consistent with what we've done. The only exception I am aware of is the off of Wolverine, which was based on the nature of the property and its location. There's some good stuff happening out this way, as far as some very nice buildings, very nice office buildings. And so, do I have a motion?
I'd make a motion to deny the request.
We'll have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We do not recommend the PUD to council as presented. Under new business, number 2, Villas of Stewartsboro.
This is one that you all had looked at recently. It's been amended from what you looked at before. This is a request to rezone 2 tracts of land, a total of approximately 3.03 acres, currently zoned R1. The request is to rezone it to PRD and to allow 40 units of townhouse development. Surrounding zoning is a mix of R1 and PRD, and that PRD is phase 1 of this development, which has 38 units in it. That was approved 10 or 12 years ago from a zoning standpoint, but has only recently become under construction. Land use plan would support commercial in this area. Again, the proposed PRD is for 40 townhouse units. We had a few comments from CUD, and that's really just kind of some of their standard comments. And then we had a request that some of their pedestrian crossings were in front of the, or asking them to move them in front of the stop bars on some of the roadways. That's something that could be addressed with the site plan if it's not been addressed already. But still essentially the same layout as you looked at last time, but it's 8 fewer units. It was 48 units before. Still the same type of units as far as the exterior materials. Still 2 parking spaces in front of each unit in addition to a single car garage, as well as some additional parking kind of spread throughout the development, as well as several additional parking spaces to be added on the access drive, which could be used kind of for both phases. And so there's quite a bit of off-site as well as on-site parking that would be proposed to be added, as well as the amenity packages of playgrounds and that type of thing as well. And you all did review this, but it was turned down at the council level. So they have amended it by reducing it by 8 units and are asking for approval again. So
What is the density on that's existing or on?
it's 38 units.
Of course, the property is,
Yeah. It's a little bit larger. It's a little over 4 acres. In phase 1, it's on the larger sheet that Holston Steel gave us. It's 9.18 units in phase 1. Phase 2 is 13.2. So the two phases together is 10.88 units per acre. It's basically 78 units on 7.17 acres. Would be the combined total of both phases together.
but it added how many parking places for the general use of the entire project? Several, didn't it?
Yeah, it's adding about 40. Well, they're adding about 40. What they're showing 40 community spaces. There was 27. So it'd be 40 spaces. Well, plus technically 42 counting 2 handicap spaces. And those would be internal to phase 2 as well as kind of in that shared area between the two phases.
Minimum unit size?
It's I think it's 1,700 square feet of living area, so that would not count the point car garage.
Exteriors are,
And the brick and stone and hardy mix. I don't know if they have much stone. I think it's mainly brick and hardy.
okay. Other questions? What questions do y'all have?
From a density perspective, this takes it down to where it would fit into an R6 zone, pretty much, wouldn't it?
Yes.
In the adjacent PRD, what was the density there?
It's about a little over 9 units per acre. But it was 38 units on 4.14 acres.
I know that was a discussion point with council as far as where we were at density-wise on this one versus the one that's pre-existing.
Also, that's a long, narrow track, wasn't it? Isn't it? If I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
you can see it on the screen there. It's a fairly long. Got an existing house that they actually is a part of a PCD that would not be a part of the overall development. That's separate. Yeah, you have basically have the access road and then a fairly deep and narrow track.
What's the wishes of the commission? Or you have other questions?
Kevin, from your perspective, do you feel like we're a lot closer to the existing PRD as far as that is, that from a movement and safety perspective, we're okay there, and that, you know, as far as vehicles and getting them parked off the roadway and not on sidewalks, we're good there?
Yeah, I mean, because there are 25 feet deep parking areas on all in front of each unit. Because you have just conventional parking spaces on your 9x19 on just those separate spaces. But as far as what's in front of the homes are all 25 feet, so they would be out of the road. And then, yeah, we did have an auto turn on that as well, and that was okay from, as far as emergency vehicle access, yes.
And I noticed one footnote here that says all common areas are to be maintained by the development's HOA. Have we typically allowed a development's HOA, or if we look more toward third-party HOAs as far as that goes? Or is that one
Yeah,
and the same?
it would be, need to be a third party, that's what we typically have done. I think it would be, and I do, as a phase, this would be phase 2 of the same development, so there would be one HOA for the whole development, not two separate HOAs. But I mean, if we wanted to, we probably should spell that out. It would be require the HOA to have a third-party manager. We did that on another PRD recently. So if you're concerned
Well,
about that,
and
how
I
it's
guess,
worded.
you know, seeing that footnote and noticing that, and believe me, I like the comment that they're committed to the use of garages, so the primary use will be for parking, not be for the parking of boats, RVs, household storage, rather for vehicular parking. I think that's important, but knowing that, you know, enforcing that can be challenging at times.
Yeah, and it would be up to the HOA to enforce it. That's not
Exactly.
something that the city would enforce, correct?
Playground already there in section 1?
It's not there yet. I mean, there will be one as part of section 1.
But
It's still under construction.
That's the way it was approved, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it the same that's shown here, or is this an additional area?
It would be an additional, they would have, there would be 2 playgrounds, basically. There'd be one in phase 1 and one in
This
phase
is
2.
a new one.
But there was a, phase 1 did have one as well.
Regarding the parking, Kevin, and it's probably on here and I don't see it, the place where cars would park, not in the garage, but in front of the garage, I'm assuming that's all concrete and not asphalt paved, correct?
I don't know.
The driveways?
Yeah. I would assume that's concrete, but that's, actually, it's not spelled out one way or the other.
I didn't see it,
actually.
that's why I asked the question,
Yeah.
so shouldn't we address that, make sure those are concrete driveway pads?
We certainly could, yeah. Because these are all private streets, so I don't know if those internal streets would be, if they were looking to do asphalt or through.
You're talking about the parking area.
In front of the units. It looks like it's just, it looks like it could go either way.
You're talking about all this wide area, right?
It's not, it's not really spelled out either way, whether it be asphalt or concrete for any of the, I mean, it was, either one would meet our requirements, if you wanted, as far as the surface. But if you wanted to specify that those parking pads be concrete, that's something you could add as a condition.
Is that something you want to do, Mark?
Yeah, I think I would, and the reason being is, it's gonna look a little weird having a garage there where you just pull in from the road kind of thing. It breaks it up.
These over here, do you care about those, or you want those?
They don't have garages, no.
No.
No, I don't.
Oh, the
no, that's
common
fine.
parking area.
That's common area, that's a street. I'm talking about in front of the units.
The parking in front of the units.
And just the 2-car pad in front of each unit.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, even though this density is a little higher than the first one, looking at it as a whole, does it make for a better project or a more complicated project in your mind?
I wanna
Putting
make it
phase
more-
1 and phase 2 together and looking at it as, you know,
I mean, I don't know about, it's not really, I wouldn't say it's complicated. I think it's, by lowering the density and you look at the overall density, it's about a little over 10 per acre if you take the 2 phases together. So that's more than what you would expect to see in a townhome type product. Typically, an 8 to 10 or 11 units per acre is what you would expect to see versus a multi-story apartment complex type development.
Yes.
So I mean, I think from a density standpoint, I think it works. I mean, I think it was, even with 8 more units, it would still be, if you look at it combined, it would still be less than what you would allow to see in an R6. I think this is more in line with what you would expect to see in a townhome type density. I think it works better with 40 units versus 48 on that 3 acres for sure. It was,
I don't think there's any question there.
it's pretty maxed out with 48.
I like the additional parking that it's providing for the entire
Taking
complex.
some of those units out too would help. That
Yes.
density was the problem I had with it before.
You have more green space. You have another playground area for the entire, for both phases. What's the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion, we approve with staff comments and adding the common areas to be maintained by a third-party HOA, and that there be concrete pads in front of all units. Does that capture your, okay?
We have a motion. We have a second.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All right, any other discussion? We can, the motion is to recommend the PUD to council. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, under rezoning request number 3, Christian Brothers Automotive, staff comments.
So this is a rezoning request. It's on Almoville Road. It's part of the Lee Village development. It's one of the out parcels there. Currently zoned C2. It's 1.11 acres. Surrounding zoning is all C2. Land use plan with support of an office retail multifamily mix here. The proposed PUD is for light automotive repair. We had a few comments. Comment number 4 regarding signs require a separate permit, and that the proposed sign package does exceed what's allowed by the sign ordinance. We have received a revised package, and what they are proposing now is in compliance with the sign ordinance, so that's not an issue anymore. Comments 5 and 6 are kind of tied together regarding fire flow for water purposes to meet the building code, as well as, and because of that, some off-site improvements may be required. Basically, they may have to run the water line from Seven Oaks Boulevard to connect there to get that adequate fire flow. And so those would be things that we would address at the site plan, but those are kind of for informational for the developer, so they're aware of it. This is, as it says, proposed to be a light automotive repair. It's Christian Brothers Automotive is the proposed user, which is a kind of a national automotive repair chain business. We did ask them kind of for some definitions of what light automotive repair means, because we wanted to know exactly what they did, I guess. And it is kind of that it's oil changes, brakes, those type of things, no body work or where there would be any type of wrecked vehicles parked and that type of thing, waiting to be repaired or painted, that type of thing. So it is kind of that where you would go for your light repair needs or service needs on your vehicle. It is in the smaller packet of information, has the architectural elevations. It is a brick and stone type project building. Several roll-up doors, but the rest of it being kind of a glass and brick and stone building. So I think that
No
is,
access off of Amable Road, it's serviced through the,
it will be serviced through the parking lot and into the access. This would be, there's a currently constructed already access used by Starbucks, and then the new dental clinic that's still or about finished to be under construction there on the corner, or at the kind of the triangular area there at the end. So yeah, there will be no direct access to Amable Road.
and it's oriented such that the end of the building is, I guess you'd say, facing, Amable.
Correct, yeah, the front, it would be facing really towards, towards the Amable and
Toward
Lee
the-
Victory intersection.
Yeah.
Is really what's aimed at primarily.
Questions?
Kevin, if this wasn't coming in as a PUD, would this fall under C5?
Yes.
I think based on what we've done with our C5 zoning and that,
It's been a big help.
yes, but I think we're gonna see a lot of automotive
PUD.
type, projects are gonna come in this way. And I think that that was our intention on what we're trying to do, is to be selective on what is approved and not by right.
Hey, Kevin, is there a potential for traffic issues inside the parking lot? Because I haven't watched the traffic pattern of this particular restaurant, but the other one up in front of my office has a string of cars all the way out to the road, and this one could back up all the way in front of their only entrance that they have.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really look at that. We weren't too worried about it just because it's not gonna get into, it's not into the public street. You know, it would just be the conflict between the three businesses. That roadway is private. It's actually owned by the shopping center, is who actually,
Owned by which one?
the shopping center.
Okay.
The public's anchor, but, and so yeah, we weren't worried about it from that standpoint of, because it's not gonna back out into any public street, because obviously you got a large parking lot. If it falls out at all, it's gonna be into their parking lot, not into the city street, so. They've got quite a bit of stacking in the Starbucks area there. I haven't noticed anything for there being an issue into that driveway. Could be, I guess, certain times of the day. It's not something that I don't believe the applicant is concerned about, I guess. So I don't think it's something that, it's not something that the staff would be concerned about either, really.
Other questions?
We'll ask Kevin, staff, the same question you've been asking all evening. Would you recommend this in this location or not?
Yeah, I think it's, the type of use it is, I think it is something that it would provide a service that's not really in that area. Folks that live in that part of, there's not any automotive service type uses that I'm aware of in that whole area at all. So I mean, I think it could provide that, and I think the building and the type of use it is something that's kind of that lighter repair. I don't think a body shop or something like that would really fit. You know, but primarily doing, you know, brakes and electrical work and changing your oil and that sort of thing. So I mean, I think it does, because of that, I think it would fit in the area. And the building is, I think, is a good looking building as these go.
The architecture's on with those.
Are the, I'm trying to get my bearings here, are the bay doors oriented to where they are facing?
They would be oriented toward the Amelville Lee Victory intersection, yeah. I mean, that is where they're, I mean, that's gonna be the front of the building.
I'm surprised they
Because behind the building, there's not even any asphalt or anything proposed at all. I mean, it would be toward the front.
So wishes of the commission.
I wish I could tell you. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
I can just tell you what I'm kind of tossing around. I mean, I know we set up the C5 district. Are we, you know, are we looking at these, or will we be looking as these as strictly PUDs, so we have control over them and how they, you know, the appearance, how they look, how they're oriented, and where they're at? Or is this a way just to circumvent what we have set up?
Well, I mean, I think, and I don't think we're looking at would be circumventing. I think this does actually provide you more control. I think a C5, if we were looking at a C5, blanket C5, I wouldn't feel as comfortable with it as I am as a PUD, just because I think certain parts that would be allowed in C5 by right, I don't know, would fit this area. This being the specific use that this is to me would be a fit. So you know, so I think looking at it at a PUD is in that way is a positive. You know, because and talking with when we met with the developer originally, and someone was there from the company, corporate folks in, I think, Houston area, and he said, we're used to going through the zoning process. A lot of communities have done exactly what Smyrna has done from an automotive sales and automotive repair type uses. So he said, the idea of going through this process didn't really bother them, because they said, we feel like our product is a good product and a good project, and so, you know, we don't mind even going through this process and submitting to a more, what could be a, you know, more stringent review than if it were just allowed by right. So
Kevin, minus the tires, could this be compared to a tire world?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's the same type of work, yeah.
Certainly, it doesn't appear that they are anticipating overnight storage, maybe some occasional parking or something like that for somebody bringing their car in.
Yeah, I don't know.
But not
That's-
any type of
Yeah.
lot or area that would need to be fenced or screened or something like
Yeah,
that.
I don't think their business model is geared in that way. No, I think it's more you might drop it off in the morning and pick it up in the afternoon, or you may sit there and wait for 30 minutes and then leave with it, you know. That's more what they do.
But to address your other question, is this a circumvention or playing within the rules? I think when we set up the C5, our intentions were to have limited areas that would be wide open to the entire C5 use, which necessarily meant that we were going to see a lot of these come through as PUDs. And I think that's the way we want to see them come through as PUDs, because we still have, the fact that we would approve this doesn't necessarily mean we have to approve every one. Since it's a rezoning and a PUD, I think each one stands on its own. And I think we're gonna see more of them. And I think we won't necessarily approve all of them.
I know we had one several months ago, but it backed up to a residential area, and that was a concern for that. This is all encompassed in a commercial area. There's no residential being affected by it. And the aesthetics of the building actually look pretty nice. I mean, it's the nicest oil change building looking thing I've ever seen in my life. Or whatever they do, you know, it looks good.
You know, do you have an issue with this use, this building in a commercial area? I think that's the decision, and I think that's the decision we're gonna be making several times. It's not gonna be unusual. I think we should expect it.
No, I like what I'm seeing on the elevations. I like the layout of the lot, and I'm actually satisfied with it. And to Kevin's point, I think this is an area where we could see where there's a need for it and a use for it. So I'll make a motion that we approve with staff comments.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'll tell you later.
Under new business, C, final plats. Cedar Hills, staff comments.
Yeah, this is a final plat of Phase 1, Section 2, Cedar Hills. It's off of Morton Lane. And eventually we'll have access as well to Rocky Fork Allenville Road. This section is off Morton. It's 4.43 acres, 18 lots proposed. We had 3 comments, and they are really all kind of centered around one main issue. This is the area that has an issue with, from a fire flow perspective. CUD is in the midst of an upgrade to correct that issue. And so we had just said that until that's completed, we didn't feel comfortable as far as recording the plat until that's done, just from the standpoint of we don't want to have lots of record that could be sold and people wanting permits, and we didn't feel comfortable issuing permits if we didn't have that adequate flow, fire flow. So we have no issue with you all approving that plat, but we did have a concern with before not recording it until that's done. And so they are in process, or I know the developer and CUD are working together on all that, and but until that's done, I guess we did want to record it again, but have no issue with this body approving that plat and with that condition. So everything else, it's consistent with the preliminary plat approval, and everything is in order with, as far as the subdivision regulations are concerned.
All right. Any idea on a time frame as to when they think they'll have those upgrades or
They
whatever?
might could address that. I know it's underway and they're under construction, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Thomas Steffen, 2925 Berry Hill Drive. The improvements actually are complete. Testing has wrapped up, and CUD is ready to sign the map as soon as it's approved here.
Okay. Thank you. But it's not unusual for us to approve even a final and it not be recorded
Right.
for several months.
Yeah, I do think they're wanting to record it relatively soon, so I think they are. But if that upgrade's completed, it should be okay to do.
Very good. Any other comments?
Won't be voting.
Passing. Do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve.
Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried, 4 yea and 1 abstention. Under new business, final plats, number 2, Seven Oaks Business Park. Staff comments.
Yeah, this is a plat in the C2 zone, 7.86 acres. Essentially what this is primarily doing is it's setting up a horizontal property regime for these business condos, as well as dedicating the public utility easements within that for water and sewer. It is also eliminating, there's an existing property line kind of between phase 1 and phase 2 that they would be eliminating as well as part of that. We just had a couple comments. They're kind of standard type things. They do have the block for the building official. We'd ask them to remove that. And the owner's signature needs to be added, so, but everything else would be in order.
Have a motion?
Move to approve the staff comments.
Have a second?
Second.
Discussions, questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7, zoning ordinance amendment. It appears we rewrote this one.
Yeah, we kind of rewrote the ordinance, I think. No,
It
not the whole
had 3
thing.
pages of scratching out. It would appear we were just rewriting the whole thing.
Yeah, we are. The existing section 3.160, which is telecommunication structures, which is the, currently in the ordinance is really just the, regulating and, conventional cellular towers. There's been some recent state legislation, and it's because really the rapidly changing technology of small cell towers gets into autonomous vehicles and various other things, but we basically, this changes to the zoning ordinance or to address, still addressing those conventional communications towers, but also addressing those small cells, many of which will be actually in our public right-of-ways. It sets up a permitting process for that and where they can be, in addition to the more conventional, again, conventional cell towers as well. It's very involved. This is actually primarily really was completely written by our legal department, and they put all that together. I'll kind of defer to Jeff if you have any specific questions, but essentially, it sets up a framework for a permitting process for these types of towers, inconsistent with the state law that was passed last year.
Did the state law address the towers like we've been dealing with in the past? Does it affect how we deal with those and where they are allowed in our zone and certain things like that?
It really doesn't. It was primarily more toward that small cell. We're kind of limited somewhat already, even going before the most recent state legislation, going back to the mid-90s. We're kind of limited in what where we can and can't do, even with those older conventional cell towers. We still have the same requirements we have now as from a setback standpoint, landscaping at the base of it, especially when it's in near residential areas, those kind of things. Those would still be in place with this. There's a whole lot more really involved in those small cells that would be within our right of ways. It's a big chunk of this as well.
So our old stuff kind of sort of stayed the same pretty much, and a whole bunch of new stuff that we don't have a choice about anyway, correct?
Yes, sir. Mainly addresses all of it, but the big change for us is dealing with the right-of-ways and the small cells. But like you're talking about the towers, it does give a little bit more parameters, but not that would affect the planning commission on that end, but just about some different heights and things like that, break points and all those types of issues. But the crux of it is mainly for these small cell placements in the right-of-ways and in certain areas of co-locating on utility poles and those types of things.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move we approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Bond review.
Yeah, we've got a few this month. First one is Woodcrest Section 5. This is one we've only had for 1 year. It's a very small section. It's only 9 lots in it. It's 5 out of the 9 have been built. We had about 8 comments total between Public Works and Utilities combined. The developer did request an extension, as we've only had this one 1 year. We're okay with a 1-year extension there. Burton Farm, Section 5. There's actually 2, Phase 3 and Phase 4. Both of these are at the end of the maintenance period, and so it was just a few items to clean up. Developer initially did say he would finish up when the weather permits, and to release them. Since that time, I did talk to him again, and he said we may need another, if it's okay, a 6-month extension on those to get those finished up this summer, because he would know if he would be able to finish them by the 19th of this month. So, and we will be okay with a 6-month extension on both of those for that, so they can finish it up. I know their intention is to get it done as soon as they can. So, and if they get done in 2 months, we would be okay releasing those then, because it is the end of their maintenance period. Villages Section 1. This one is built out. There are 3 items there from Public Works. Everything's completed on the utility side. They are looking at completion there. This is one we've had a couple years. We have not had the maintenance period yet on that, so we would just extend this. This was a small one anyway. It had no new roadways in it. It was really just for water and sewer and stormwater improvements. We'll just recommend extending that at the current level for their maintenance bond for 1 year. And then Preserve at Stewart Creek, Section 2. This one is built out, or at least everything's under construction. Still several items to complete there. It is one we've only had 1 year. They did request an extension. They do plan to do the topping this summer. So we would recommend a 1-year extension on that. And that's all I got.
And I won't be voting on this one. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the staff comments.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else?
I don't have anything else. Appreciate everyone coming early to our meeting to discuss the downtown plan, and we'll be talking about that further on, more down the road too. That's all
We
I got.
stand adjourned. Thank you all.